This episode is sponsored by two amazing companies. First, we have 99 Designs. Listen, if you're looking for a new business card, a new logo, a new website, something for marketing, whatever. If you need graphic arts, if you need something created, if you need something taken from your mind, your thought process, and created on paper, in print, on the internet, these guys know how to get it done for you, and they give you a ton of options to choose from. Guys, super endorsed by Tim Ferriss. 99 Designs, check them out. Go to davidihill.com. davidihill.com, click on the affiliates link, and you'll see 99 Designs, and just click the link and check them out. The other one is Land Voice. If 2017, part of your goal is prospecting, then you need to check these guys out. They have access to the for sale by owner for you, expired listings, circle prospecting, giving you all the phone numbers you need to make those prospecting calls. So check out Land Voice. Same thing. Go to my site, davidihill.com, affiliates, and you just click on the Land Voice link, and you can see all the specials they've got. They've got like $30 a month specials going on right now. You can try their service out. No contract, $30. If you love it, you keep going. If you don't, you stop. You just can't beat it. So, guys, check out our sponsors, all right, and enjoy.
Get ready for one more sale, inspiring you with ideas through powerful and engaging interviews with top performers of their field. Now, join us as we discuss techniques and strategies of the coolest and most successful people on the planet.
Hey Masters, it's David Hill here with another episode of Path to Mastery. I am bringing you a special treat this week, my friends. We have Andy and Leslie Peters with us. Listen, a friend of mine, Joe Provost, reached out to me, a couple months ago, and he said, you know what? Why don't you bring us a husband and wife team? We'd love to hear from a husband and wife team. So I went out and I found you the best. Listen, these guys are out of Atlanta. In 2016, they did almost 70 million volume, close to 200 units. Andy doesn't even sell real estate anymore, and Leslie just really handles the operations. I mean, these guys are doing it at the highest level, and they do it through focusing on their strengths, through efficiencies, through communication, through their talent, obviously finding talented people, and they're just killing it. So it's a brilliant interview. Listen to it. I honestly can't wait to listen to it again and again and again, because I have a husband and wife team. So listen, it's awesome. And if you enjoy it, I just please share it with someone else. Please share it. And hey, shoot me some feedback. I'd love to know if there's anything else you want to hear about. We're always looking for topics, for ideas. And guys, we have Tom Hopkins coming up next week for you. Yeah, Tom Hopkins, the legendary, the original real estate trainer. I mean, this guy's amazing. This interview is phenomenal. Tom Hopkins coming up. Listen, today though, focus on Andy and Leslie Peters. Guys, they're brilliant, and one more tool, one more step on your path to sales mastery. We ask that you give us a little bit of a pass this week, just because we had the husband and wife team and they recorded on a speakerphone, which we won't do again, and the quality just isn't up to 100% par. I'll tell you what though, the content though is phenomenal. Thank you. Hey Masters, welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery. And as always, we're bringing you guys the best, and we have a special treat. As a matter of fact, one of my good friends, Joe Provost, who runs the pros team, reached out to me and he said, hey, we'd love to hear an interview of a great husband and wife team. You never do any husband and wife teams. So I said, that's a great idea, since I am actually a husband and wife team myself. I'm not sure you want to follow my model right now. So what I did was I reached out to my good friend Seth Campbell, and I said, hey, who's a great husband and wife team? And I said, you got to get in touch with Andy and Leslie Peters. And I said, I know them. Those guys are awesome. As a matter of fact, we had dinner when I was in Atlanta. So Andy, Leslie, first off, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
Love
Dave.
it. Love
Glad
it.
to be here.
Seth gave us a shout out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a high place.
Yeah, do you guys know Mike Schiff, the Schiff team?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Obviously Mike and Jen, and I'm planning on doing them as well. But Seth did give you guys a shout out. So a little bit about your team. 2016, you guys did just over 180 units, 68 million in volume. Congratulations. You were Atlanta Board of Realtors. You're in the $1 Million Club. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
You guys are killing it. And the thing is too, I remember when I came down, I taught in your market center, and Robin brought me out, and we had a lot of fun. We went out to dinner. You guys brought me to a nice dinner. And I always remember you saying to me, you know what, I want to get into that Gary Keller mastermind. right? And you guys, you weren't quite there yet, but Robin said these guys are really doing big things, and you got to meet them. And I always remember that conversation. And then I think it was a couple years later, I saw you guys sitting in a mastermind. That was so cool.
That was it, man. What you focus on expands.
Yes, sir. What you focus on expands. So tell us a little bit about your team. Andy, Leslie's with us as well. Kind of fill in some of the blanks, and then we'll get into this conversation about building a husband and wife team.
Well, Leslie's the matriarch, so I'm going to let her go.
Matriarch does not mean old, by the way.
No, got it.
Back in 2005, I decided to get my real estate license, and I was a school teacher. I actually was teaching first grade, and Andy said, go for it. Like, I think you would be awesome. He's like, but just don't quit your full-time job until we can make sure that this is going to work. And I worked part-time in real estate for about 9 months and made what I did for a full year in teaching. And we decided I have got to get out of teaching and do this full-time, and just got a really fast start. Had my first child the first year I was in it full time. And I loved it. And it's addictive. After you have one closing, you want another. And year 3 in 2008, I was working about 80-hour weeks, and Andy was traveling. He was a VP of sales for a national drinking water company, and he was gone Tuesdays through Thursdays. We didn't have any family in town. And I had a 2-day a week, I think, babysitter. And it just was not working. I found after about 3 years that I was hitting a ceiling, and I just needed someone else in my life. And I just started begging Andy, like, look, you should quit your job and come into real estate.
Yeah, I was making about 150 G's. So, I mean, I had a decent job. You know, it was a job that people in my company wanted, but it was obvious that she was doing big things. And whenever she was making what I was making without having to manage 50 people, I'm like, this is for the birds. I'm jumping ship and going into real estate.
And it took me about 6 months, I think, to convince you. And I'm not even a crier, but I think at that point, working 80-hour weeks and no childcare, every time Andy would come home, I'd be crying, saying, you've got to come join me.
Yeah.
And that finally worked.
Yeah, it's funny in this business. I was just talking to someone else, and it's very similar. People get stuck in that place where this particular person, he's a postman, so he's kind of stuck in that place. Well, should I leave my job with the post office? It's stable. I got benefits, but I'm doing $10 million in real estate. And at some point, you just got to say, okay, I got to take the leap. So it sounds like, Leslie, for you already making it, so you knew, okay, it's time to go, right? But what if someone else is like on that fence where, okay, how do you know? Because most people aren't able to. I shouldn't say most people, but there's a lot of people I know, or a lot of people I talk to is they're not really sure. Like they're in that place where they're stuck in between two worlds. Well, when I make enough, I'll do it. But then they never make enough to actually make the transition.
I think that's hard. I mean, it's a fear or abundance conversation. You at some point, nobody can make that decision for you. You got to weigh the pros and the cons. But if you work hard in your job, which I'm sure everybody that listens to your podcast does, you work hard in your job and you can translate that same work ethic into real estate, you should be able to make it. I mean, there's enough education out there, great people sharing ideas like you have folks sharing here. If you just put your nose down and you work real estate like a job, you'll make it. I mean, I think what most people do is they get in and they treat it like a hobby and then they're wondering why it's not working out. But it is a real job.
Yeah, and the thing, too, is it's unlimited. I mean, the potential is unlimited in real estate, in all sales, not just real estate. I mean, somebody said, well, I'm making, close to $80,000 a year, doing this. I'm like, I know agents that are making $80,000 a month. You know what I mean? It's unlimited. So I appreciate that. And again, I wanted to talk to you guys kind of about the dynamic with the husband and wife team. My wife and I have been working together for years, and we've kind of set this kind of expectation where, we don't take things home, I guess is to simplify life. And so let's talk about you guys. What does that look like for you? Like, how do you guys make it work? And then I'd love to talk about maybe some of the challenges and some of the things you guys did to overcome that.
Absolutely. So early on, there were just not a lot of husband and wife teams in Atlanta that Andy and I could really look up to. We found after about 5 years in the business, I think, that Gene and Rebecca Rivers are literally who we wanted to be when we grew up.
Yeah.
So we coach with Gene, and that has just changed our world. So what I determined when I became a MAPS coach is I want to get involved with husband and wife teams because I think I can bring a lot to the table. What Andy and I found when he got in the business in 2008 is the first year it was me really teaching him the business and him just learning the business. And then in 2009, we had our second child, and I realized very quickly with two young children at home that both of us could not have the phone ringing all the time. And we really had to specialize. So what I did is really focus on the marketing and the operations side of the business. And Andy became the listing and buyer specialist at that time.
Which was my wheelhouse. That was kind of what I'd been doing in my previous life.
So let me jump in because so when you talk about, you know, in the beginning it was teaching. Sometimes can that be part of the challenge with people where, you know, maybe they don't necessarily want to be taught by their spouse the business, and it can be a challenge. It's not even intentional. It's just like, well, hold on, you're not going to kind of tell me what to do or stuff like that. Do you guys ever see that with husband and wife dynamic?
I mean, I think that it'd be important. One of our biggest regrets was not hiring a coach soon enough. You know, whether it's MAPS coaching or getting a mentor, you know, somebody that has gone before you and has done what it is that you want to do, and learn from them. But, you know, one of our mentors, Bob Kalinsky, he told me one time, he said, you know, you need to surround yourself with excellent people, and you're going to have to pay people. You know, you're going to have to pay people what they're worth in order to get them in your world. And that's good. That don't think of that as a bad thing. Embrace it and find as many people as you can. And, you know, he's basically talking about coaching. But I think for me, whenever I got in, Leslie was so busy, quite honestly, she would just give me stuff and would say, just figure it out.
I love it.
That's my high D coming out.
Hey, that's how we do it.
I would just throw things at him.
But that was awesome. I mean, that really worked well for me because I got to figure things out. I got to make my own mistakes. That was the way I learned best.
And I'm not patient. So he knew that about me. So we really worked well together because we had figured each other out from a husband and wife dynamic, and how we work together at home is the exact same way we work together in the office. So he knew what really would set me off if he asked me something 3 times, so he just wouldn't ask. And he would go figure it out. And honestly, that gives us a leg up sometimes is we're just really honest with each other, and we know the ins and outs of one another, where a lot of teams that have 2 rainmakers, that's difficult if they're not married because you have to tiptoe around issues. And you're not always completely. Yeah,
we're pretty honest with each other.
You know, I love this conversation. I mean, again, my wife's been in the business for years. You know, not full time. She teaches yoga. She does some other things, but it's just that dynamic of. I remember one time in my kitchen, I'm a scripts guy. Everybody knows I'm a scripts guy. I teach people, and I overheard a phone conversation, and at the end when she hung up, I'm like, you know, I would have said that like this, and I'll tell you, it all went downhill from there. But you know, how common is that? And I think that's what you're talking about with getting a coach, right? Putting somebody in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Or some of us are more open to that, and it sounds like you may have been, Andy.
Well, it took us a while to be open to that. You know, at first you think you're a genius and things are working and you feel like, oh, this is easy. And then like Leslie said, the ceiling she hit on her own, we hit that as a duo. You know, then you have to understand that you got to start hiring people. Well, how do you do that? You need help doing that. So, yeah, I think throughout the course of growing your business, you find that you need people. And once you hit those ceilings, you need somebody.
And I tell you, David, one thing that's really helped us is having one coach that is both of our coaches together, because being on that call, we both hear it together, right? And then I also think it's incredibly important as a married couple running a team that you have an independent coach. So someone that just is focusing on what you specialize in and just you. So for married couples out there, if you don't have a coach, go get one. Go get one for both of you first, but your production is going to, you know, go up. So once that production starts going up, go get your own coach, because that changes your world.
So you're saying you want a coach that coaches both of you guys together, so it's like a group call, and then you each have your individual coaches as well, so to focus on your side of the business?
Absolutely.
I think that's the ultimate goal. Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate goal for any husband and wife team, just because you each are different. And a lot of times what I find, and I tell my coaching clients that are husband and wife that are on the call together, a lot of times I feel like they hear me, they listen to me on the call, but as soon as they get off that call, they start negotiating with themselves out of doing what I said. Right?
Tell us more about, so what do you mean when you say that? Like, can you give us an example?
Yeah, so we'll come to agreement on the call on what's going to happen that week. And then they get off the phone and they start talking with each other more about it. And they basically come to their own conclusion themselves. That's not what we agreed upon.
Got it. So,
right.
So basically they're just saying, yeah, whatever. So essentially they're just wasting their time even talking to you if that's what they're going to do when they hang up the call.
Absolutely.
So how does somebody get beyond that? Like, what do you say to somebody? Like, how do you get someone past that?
You have to hold them highly accountable, and I'll call them out on it. And at the beginning of the next call, when they say, Leslie, we decided after we talked that we really just don't feel comfortable doing that. Wait. So you talked about it afterwards, and you negotiated with each other that you weren't going to do what we agreed to. Whereas if it was just one person on that call, there wouldn't be anybody else to negotiate and talk it out, right? So that's a huge thing I see with husband and wife teams, right, Andy?
Yeah.
You see that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Andy, right now, like, what's the biggest challenge you're seeing with, I don't want to single you out, but I'll ask you the same question. What would you say right now is the biggest challenge with husband and wife teams?
Well, I think as you continue to have success, the challenge is figuring out what do you want to do. Your why changes. Now I don't even sell houses anymore. I'm out of production, and I'm here to help other people. I get lost in the success of others, really. And I think Leslie she's still running the operations team, and she'll eventually replace herself as well. I think the biggest challenge for us right now is what's next. Just continuing to make yourself uncomfortable and looking for the next thing. We're kind of obsessed with that, I would say. Never getting too comfortable doing what we're doing, and always trying to keep in mind that we got to make opportunities for other people, or people are going to leave us. So that's our biggest challenge, is constantly figuring out what we're going to do and how can we create more for others. So
creating those opportunities so that people are going to stay in your world and not leave.
Right.
So when you had mentioned that you really, the biggest challenge now is the fact that you're not in production, right? Is that what you had said? You're not in production? So let's talk about your team, actually. What's the dynamic of your team? How many people on your team?
We have 11 people on our team. One is a part-time runner. We're balanced. We have 5 agents and 5 operations.
Okay.
And a team of 3 buyers agents, 1 expansion agent, and 1 listing specialist.
Okay, wow.
And I'm director of sales, so I guess you'd kind of count me as an admin person. I oversee expansion, listings, and buyers.
Got it. So you guys, it sounds like you're both in leadership on the team, right? So with the 11 people, does everybody look up to you? Or is it more specific? How does that work? Or because sometimes it can be confusing to other people that are on a team.
I think they kind of know, back to the skill conversation, I think they kind of know if they need an answer to a specific question, they know who to go to.
I get calls from buyers agents when they just want to talk something through and they feel like I would be the better choice. They call me, especially a few of our moms on the team. If they're really struggling with balance at home and working all the time, they know to call me. If they really want to talk sales and scripts, they're going to call Andy. So they know who to call for what.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of a lead agent on the team, I would say right now, there's not really a lead agent. Leslie runs operations, I run sales. Eventually, and this will be what's next, there will be a lead agent on the team that will look after everything once we're out of here.
Got it.
David, you asked Andy earlier about one thing that we see a trouble that husband and wife teams have. One of them is just efficiencies, because I feel like as a husband and wife, you like to both hold on to things. So for instance, in the beginning, Andy and I would go on every single listing appointment together. And we had it in our minds that we needed to be on those listing appointments together because the power of two selling is amazing, right?
That's a whole nother podcast, the power of two people selling. Awesome stuff.
And it worked for us. I mean, our conversion rates were off the charts for years. But what we found is we just weren't being efficient, and we were working crazy hours. And so a lot of times with husband and wife teams, I'm spending talking about, okay, is that in your 20%? I thought that was the other spouse's 20%, right? So there's just so much crossover with husband and wife. And to this day, you just asked us who's the lead agent, and we really can't tell you.
The reason I asked that is because having a team and my wife being on the team and then having somebody else that was the listing specialist, people were kind of confused. And that's my fault as the leader, not creating that clarity, but like who do you go to? Like if Dave's out doing an event, do you go to Chris? Do you go to V? And those are things that kept coming up. So I want to ask Leslie the same question though. Like what right now, Leslie, or what's not even right now, what's the biggest challenge with a husband and wife team in your opinion?
I truly believe it's efficiency, because there's a lot of times I get involved in things that should be Andy's 20%, and I do it out of love for the team and love for him and wanting to help, when I should just stay in my lane. A great example of this is we're hiring for 2 buyer specialists right now. Well, I get roped into that, and I'll start looking at resumes for buyer specialists and lead generating for buyer specialists when that's his 20%. And then I should be focused on my ISA hire and my transaction coordinator hire, right? So I truly believe it's that efficiency, because a husband and wife team, you both just are so passionate about what you do. It's hard to separate it into your specific role.
Yeah, I think it's important too that you both have the same vision. You both have the same goals, and you're working in the same direction. Because I think we've gone through seasons in our life where we both wanted a little bit of different things, and we had to kind of stop and figure it out and say, all right, let's get all of our parts and pieces moving in the same direction. And of course, that's when the magic happens. So sometimes we fight against ourselves and we don't even realize it. So sometimes you got to slow down to speed up.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I mean, how important is that when you do have a husband and wife team, and one partner really has these massive goals where they want to do extraordinary amounts of business. The other partner's just like, is that common, or how do you deal with something like that?
Yeah, like I just wanted a beach house, right? I don't want to sell 500 houses. At some point, enough is enough. You have to have those conversations. And it was funny, Leslie and I both did a future self with our team leader, Robin. And
she wanted to do them separately.
Yeah, which was brilliant. And then what we found out is that once we both had finished them and you laid them on top of each other, they were almost identical. And why do you think that is?
You guys are on the same page. You have the same vision, very similar beliefs. Absolutely.
Talk about it.
I know she knows what I want. We work together to get each other what they want. And so that was a really massive aha for us, was whenever we realized, okay, we are speaking the same language, we are working towards the same goals, and it's really been helpful.
And I tell you, David, so much of that within our future selves and being learning based, we have passed down to our children who are 7 and 10. So both of our children have done a future self. So when we're talking about goals as a family, they each have their vision board already done for 2017. So it's just so impactful, because as a husband and wife team, you are talking about this constantly with your children, and why not make that useful for them and for their future?
That's phenomenal.
We had a conversation whenever I was in Austin. I think it was for one of Gary's groups, and I forget who it was, if it might have been Mike Hicks, or it was somebody that was eating dinner with us. And the challenge was voiced that so many people go home and they talk to their spouse, and their spouse doesn't get to experience what they've experienced. Like they don't get to get charged up like they get charged up. They don't get to, drink the Kool-Aid, see the big vision. And it is a little bit deflating for them when they go back home. And it's also confusing for the spouse because the spouse just doesn't really get it, So I do kind of count my lucky stars that both of us get to hear the same thing and experience the same thing. And, it elicits the same emotions and hopefully bigger and better things.
That's a great point. Sounds to me too like communication is really one of the keys for success here.
Yeah. It is. And I tell you, as much as we try to cut it off, there is never a night, I don't think, that we don't talk about real estate. In fact, our little girl last year had got off for Christmas and she sat on the couch and she said, "You guys are always talking about houses. Why can't we talk about Christmas?" And sometimes it's a gut check for us. Like we talk about it too much. In the same breath, I think that it also is our passion and we love that. And it's something great that we can share with one another.
Yeah, our kids see our passion.
Yeah, I hear it, and I love it. I that's exactly what I was going to say, and you just said it, Leslie. You just nailed it. So obviously working with other husband and wife teams, are there times where you just say this, it's probably not the right fit, for some of our listeners, or sometimes it makes sense to not be a husband and wife team?
I am very fortunate that the husband and wife teams I coach, I think they are all fantastic husband and wife teams. However, I have seen in the 10 years I've been in the business that there are some husband and wife teams that just aren't compatible to work together. And I think husband and wife typically know that before they get into business together. People come up to Andy and I all the time and say, "I just don't understand how you guys work with each other." And to that comment, in my mind, I just always think, gosh, I cannot imagine not working with him. I can't imagine not sharing our work life because we love it. I mean, it's so much fun.
What would you think that would make somebody say not as compatible as you guys?
I think it's the why. I think it's mindset. A lot of it's mindset, and a lot of it is not being on the same page. They don't want the same things in life.
Well, and I think too, there is for most people, there is a me at work and there's a me at home. And so there's a different hat that you continually put on. And if you're accustomed to wearing one hat and then all of a sudden they're the same hat, it does create a little bit of internal conflict for people where they feel like they've got to act like a certain way, but you're dealing with your spouse. Like you have to go home with them and have dinner with them, So I do think that's probably a big struggle that people have, is that they want to have a certain relationship with the people that they work with, and they want to have a certain relationship with the people that they live with. And when those worlds collide, it's a little conflicting.
And I think one thing, David, if you look at our DISC profiles, Andy and I cover every quadrant of the DISC.
At a high level.
At a very high level. We represent D, I, S, and C. And so I feel like it gives us a leg up against our competition because we're running this team and are able to be every single one of those quadrants, whereas an individual agent running a team does not have that luxury.
Good stuff, my friends.
High D, she helps me make decisions, and I'm a high S. I help her make better decisions.
I love that. So you guys really complement each other, and it sounds like sometimes I think if maybe you had two real high Ds working together, there could be. I mean, obviously you make that work, you figure it out, but there could be some clashing where you guys tend to sync well together because of the differences. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And David, that could answer your question that you asked a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Maybe you have two high Ds that are husband and wife, and that might not be the best match to run a team. They probably couldn't, right?
Well, The reality is, most of the time, those people are not going to be married.
You are listening to One More Sale.
So a couple more questions, guys, and we're going to get wrapping up. So tell us something that we don't know about a husband and wife team.
Well, it's not for everybody. I think you've got to be able to live with your business partner. So that's a very easy one. I would say for us, our struggles are minimal. And maybe that's from just working together for so long. But I don't know. What would you say?
I know that's
struggle.
That's tough. That's tough. What you would not know about a husband and wife team.
Yeah, it's an interesting question I got recently. Or is there another question that you guys get asked a lot that I didn't ask? Or is there a question I should have asked that I didn't ask?
Well, answering your question, I really think that a husband and wife team, it's difficult to escape the business. In fact, it's almost impossible. I mean, I can't ever think of a dinner where we don't talk about work. I can't ever think about any time that we're not talking about
And
work.
before I was in real estate, I resented that. You know, I'm like, okay, enough. I understand you're selling a lot of houses. That's great. I don't want to talk about that.
And Andy would get very frustrated when he wasn't in the business because he would be like, Leslie, it's 10 o'clock. Why are you still working? And I would say, I'm negotiating this deal. Like, I have to talk to them right now. And he's like, no, you don't. Like, it's 10 o'clock. And once he got into the business, he understood why I was working so much. And I really think it's a godsend when you have a spouse that truly understands your job, because, you know, the divorce rate's really high in real estate. And it's a lot of times because these people work all the time, and there's counterbalance, but there's not a lot of balance.
Well, yeah, and it reminds me of, there's been a lot of situations where Leslie and I would be on vacation or out to dinner or date night or whatever, and my phone would ring in the middle of dinner. Normally I would, you know, hit silence button, but on most occasions, Leslie says, take it. It's a money call. Take it. Take it now. Convert the lead. So, I mean, there is a mutual understanding of what opportunity looks like, and that how precious opportunities are, and that, you know, you need to take advantage of it.
You know,
we make 9 calls a game, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, take the call. I mean, we sit down for a sushi dinner, our sushi gets there, the phone rings, and I'm like, that could be $8,000. Pick it up.
You know what I'm getting from this is a couple things. First off, the fact that you guys really have intertwined your business with your life. So it's your life. I mean, you know, like I said in the beginning of the call, you know, my wife and I, we try not to talk about real estate outside. Maybe that's one of the challenges. Who knows? It's something we're certainly going to talk about now. And then the other thing, though, that I'm getting from this, and I do see this, though, you know, when you're hiring people and you're looking for talent, I'm not telling everybody to go hire their wife. That's not the point of saying this, but it's very hard to find somebody else that cares as much about your business as you do. And from listening to you two, it's clear you both care about this business.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think that's such a blessing. Anyway, that said, guys, how do our listeners get in touch with you? We know you guys do a phenomenal job. You guys talked. I remember that pumpkin patch party you guys were doing a few years ago. Still looking to model that. How do we get in touch with you guys for referrals?
So you can reach us online at as in THE, Peters, PETERS, Company, COMPANY.com.
Okay, and you guys are in Atlanta.
We are.
We're
And
in Atlanta.
we are traveling and teaching 33 Touch in a Think Big class.
Yeah, Think Big is about growing teams. 33 Touch, which is kind of the backbone of our business, is all about the marketing plan. So we can help in any way. Let us know.
And our training calendar's on that website as well.
If you're anything like me and you love podcasts, I guarantee you're going to love audiobooks. And audible.com is the largest resource of audiobooks. I'm super excited about my partnership with audible.com, where I can offer you a free audiobook. All you have to do is simply go to www.davidsfreebook.com and sign up, and you get yourself a free book. Yes, absolutely free, never charged, no membership. If you love the service, then obviously continue using it, but this is completely free. Again, www.davidsfreebook.com. Get yourself a free audiobook and enjoy.
You are listening to One More Sale with your host, David I. Hill, author of The Sales Playbook. Get your copy at www.thesalesplaybook.net.